My favorite part was when Gronk showed you that this was up, and then also that this part right here was down. Vintage Gronk. All right, Coach, let's break it down. How were the Patriots able to beat the Rams last night?
Well, I heard Andrew Whitworth after the game talking about the fact that the Patriots played more zone than they had all season. And just in hearing that quote, that made me think this was the wrong way to approach it. It doesn't matter how much man or zone the Patriots have played all season. Those season-long statistics and tendencies, they don't matter. It matters.
It doesn't matter to the Patriots.
No.
It matters as far as people looking at it, but you know, being inside the room, that they're going to use that information to be able to formulate a game plan that's not going to look like that.
Yeah, it's how, from an offensive perspective, it's how they're going to play you. It's your weaknesses. It's your strengths. It's not about the other games that came before it. And you have to be able to go into that game and adjust to that. Okay, that's one part of it. And just feeling that they let the Patriots dictate the game. And instead of taking some of that back and dictating the game, and offensively, you control personnel, shifts, motions, tempo, all those things you absolutely control. And I felt like there should have been more pressure on the Patriots' defense.
So how could they have done that?
Well, I would have liked to have seen some no huddle at some point in the game.
The problem with that was they couldn't generate first downs. In their first 8 series, the longest drive was 5 plays. But
which I totally get. But come out one series and give it to them. You know what I mean? And who knows if it was up tempo, if that would have generated some more third down, just some kind of change of pace.
Coach, what about them taking their time outside the huddle? Now, in the telecast, Tony Romo thought that he was playing a chess game because the headset goes down at 15 seconds in the play clock. I didn't think that was the reason why they were delaying. I just thought they weren't comfortable with what they were doing. What about a speedier pace out of the huddle?
Yes, 100%. And you could go ahead, play that chess game. Go up to the line of scrimmage with 15 seconds left and see whether or not you can assess what New England's in.
Right, but they were just breaking the huddle. Yeah, so that didn't give them the type of advantage. Okay.
So you go up to the line of scrimmage, you have no idea what you're looking at. You have very little time from an offensive line standpoint to communicate what the front is. From a quarterback standpoint, to assess what the potential coverage is. And then I thought New England did a good job of, they weren't going to let Todd Gurley win the game. They were not going to let CJ and Todd win the game, so they got in a bear front, which means they covered the center and the 2 guards. They had 2 guys at the end of the line of scrimmage. They built a wall to take away the zone runs, and they said, Jared Goff is going to have to beat us. That's who's going to have to win this game. And then the Rams condensed everybody in tight, which is perfect. Bring all your little guys into my big guys and see what happens. And they go and they beat up the wide receivers. And so you give them this one front, which typically when you're in that front, it's man coverage. And then you play man.
Yes.
And then you come back and you play zone.
Yes.
And then you rush 3. And then you play quarters. And so it all looks the same out of that one front. And the whole game is being dictated to St. Louis.
And Los Angeles. I got you.
It was just the same result when they were
I'm back in 2002.
No,
that was my
you shut them down then, Coach, and then they shut them down when they're the Rams now.
And listen, I don't know if it was the first Rams play of the game, but one of their first 2 pass plays was a Jared Goff rollout to his right. And the guy he was trying to throw to just got obliterated.
Crushed.
You saw it as well. Okay.
So the biggest problem with rolling him out, they thought, okay, we're going to move the pocket. But when the quarterback moves outside the pocket, there is no pass interference.
Contact. There's no right. And
so the game changes.
But it was exactly what Coach said they would do. He said they're gonna. As soon as they try to do that, they're gonna. You called it butch the receiver.
Yep.
And I saw it. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, that ain't great. And the Rams. The reason this game was competitive, obviously, was because the Rams defense, Wade Phillips and those guys, I thought played brilliantly. I thought the Rams defense was almost as great as the Patriots defense was. But the other thing they were able to do was, see, you made the point a half dozen times last week, and it was an important one. The Rams might have had the most underrated offensive line in football this year, maybe the best. Last year, all 5 starters, all 16 games. This year, all 5 starters, all 16 games. And that front, not only did the Bear front prevent the running game from getting going, but they were at Jared Goff's feet the whole game. And one thing we know, for as good as Goff has been, when he's got time, when things are going well, the 28th ranked quarterback in football this year under pressure, and that even dropped off more precipitously once Cooper Kupp went out. If you can get pressure to him, that offense falls apart, and that is what they were able to do consistently yesterday.
So do we come back down to earth a little bit now with Sean McVay and this, this like new approach to offense? Did it take a little bit of shine off of McVay and how the league saw him this season, what you saw last night?
Look, he has done a great job managing a bunch of personalities that are very difficult to manage throughout the course of the season, and to take something away from someone who is able to do that and get to the Super Bowl and have the success that he's had, I don't think that's fair to do that. And he's going against someone who's got 43 years of coaching. He's got 10 more years in the NFL than Sean McVay's been alive. So from an experience perspective, it's pretty unfair that way. Now, what we're going to have to see from McVay is when free agency, when guys have to leave and you've got to put new pieces in place. And,
how he handles that.
Yeah, that to me is the measure of someone's coaching ability.
I'm like Coach Mangini. It's not fair to just base it on the X's and O's, because a coach is doing hundreds of other things to put his team in position, organizational-wise, personality-wise, hiring the right coaches, creating the right environment, because a head coach is like a general. But the assistant coaches are like the lieutenants are going to get the soldiers to march out the plan. But Sean McVay has shown us that he can put together an organizational plan. Forget about a game. He's changed that organization. Look at the coaches that he's selected. Look at the type of football that he's taught. So that can't be taken away just because of one game. This is beyond calling plays. We believe Sean McVay is special, and that shouldn't be taken away losing to the greatest coach ever.
And I know we're going to get more into McVay later, but speaking of coaches, I want to talk about what we started the show talking about, who we started the show talking about, and Brian Flores. Because Brian Flores, after the game, Belichick called him the defensive coordinator, which he hadn't been doing. But now, Brian, as you mentioned, now that he's going to go be in Miami, there's no salary tied to what your title is, so maybe be a little more free with it. Charles Robinson had a great article quoting a Patriot source saying, Flores called the entire game, I promise you that. You had Devin McCourty after the game talking about, and this is something I'm sure you're familiar with, Flores telling the guys, we're going to play a bunch of zone. It's going to confuse them.
Yep.
And then in the biggest spot of the game, we're going to go cover zero.
Yep.
And they're not going to be ready. And by the way, they had a pick on a cover zero.
We're going to force them to throw hot,
right.
And we're going to be ready to capitalize.
We're going to be ready for it. And so this was, to me, a really brilliant game plan that also trusted, and this is a point you make all the time, trusted the Patriots athletes. Trusted that Kyle Van Noy said after the game,
right,
we don't have stars, we have elite football players. So the game plan sounds great, but it doesn't work if Gilmore can't hold up one-on-one on Cooks. Game plan sounds great. It doesn't work if your guys aren't smart enough or adaptable enough to transition to your most zone-heavy game all year long, right? Like, it was a perfect combination of guys knowing exactly what their responsibilities were, being able to execute those responsibilities, and a really savvy defensive game plan.
Yeah, and I've talked about this a lot. This doesn't happen the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. This happens in OTAs. This happens in training camp. This happens throughout the course of the year, and it always comes down to the playoffs where other teams try to adjust because their best pitch, the thing that they do well, and you hear guys say, we do what we do. Great, congratulations. You do what you do until someone else does it better, and then you go home. And New England, what they do is have the flexibility to adjust to whoever the opponent is. But it's built over time, and that to me is the difference between one-offs and consistency and what they've built.
All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.